Kicking off the list at number 10, we have the Absorbing Man. Carl Crusher Creel already sounds intimidating enough. The Absorbing Man made his comic book debut back in Journey into Mystery issue 114. He was raised in the Bronx, and at a young age his mother passed away, and his father certainly wasn't there for him after. He was not a role model as well, to say the least. So sadly, Carl turned to the life of crime in order to pay the bills. And while he was spending time in the gym, he realized he was actually a pretty great boxer. He did so well that he became known as Crusher Creel, but that life of crime was still sprinkled in there, and then he was recruited as an enforcer for the Owl's Men. He eventually got caught and locked up, but this is when things start going a little bit fun in a way. See, Loki, Loki the god of mischief, he added this rare Asgardian herb to Carl's drinking water in hopes that he would get this new ability to take down Thor. Now, this new ability made him the Absorbing Man, a guy who could absorb the physical properties of anybody that he came into contact with. His first battle was with Thor, and then when he came back to Earth, he went toe-to-toe with the Hulk. I'd love an Absorbing Man in the MCU, honestly. I feel like I could watch 2 movies with Carl just fist-bumping all of our Avengers and causing chaos, taking powers, of course. And before we go on to number 9, if you guys could go ahead and toss this video a thumbs up, that would be great because those likes do wonders for our page. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Now back to some more Hulk villains. Number 9, Speed Freak. Making his first debut in Incredible Hulk issue 388, Speed Freak aka Joss Shapp was a criminal who at one point got addicted to this substance called Snap. Oh snap. This plus the fact that he stole a super suit from an inventor sounds like a perfect supervillain origin story in the making. So Speed Freak had been hired by a man named Mr. Lang, and one of his first jobs was to attack a guy who had infected Mr. Lang's son. So Speed Freak went to fight it out, and while there, he had the misfortune of crossing paths with the Incredible Hulk, who tossed Speed Freak quite the distance. So his suit alone gives Speed Freak quite the advantage. It gives him the ability to hover above the ground, flying, literally being able to fly, and he also has arm-mounted adamantium cutting blades, so he might be a bit too crazy for the MCU, at least right now. Number 8, The Leader. Samuel Stearns, aka The Leader, made his first debut in Tales to Astonish, issue 62. He was working one night at a chemical research plant, and when he was moving canisters of waste material, one of the containers, bam, they broke open and then covered him in gamma radiation. Stearns survived just like Banner did, but it affected him in a different way. He went from being smart to becoming a genius, and his brain could absorb more and more information. It was his superpower. And it got to a point where his physical body started to mutate, so now he has this giant green brain head. I mean, he clearly looks like a villain, and then he started to refer to himself as the Leader, using his intellect to become a criminal mastermind. He clashed with the other Gamma guy, Banner. In fact, he actually ruined Betty and Bruce's wedding. What a jerk. Number 7, Greg Gargoyle. He made his first comic book debut with Journey into Mystery issue 107. Greg Gargoyle, aka Dr. Paul Duval, was a young chemist working for a pharmaceutical company in Paris, and when he spilt a contaminated potion on his right hand, it started to turn into this stone-like material. Not like Medusa though, where you're stone and immobile. Dr. Greg Gargoyle McGee was actually able to move whilst maintaining the stone form. So he looks scary and he actually can do some damage. But everything he touched turned into this stone stuff. And it's super scary to have this happen, but I can't help but chuckle at how human Greg is when this transformation happens. He's like, oh no, my hand. Oh no, my other hand. Shoot, what do I do? Oh no, my face. That's like when they said you shouldn't touch your face during COVID-19. I'm like, what do I do with my hands? How do I act normal? What have I been doing for 26 years? What's going on? So Greg has a few good ideas with this ability. He tossed a stone airplane at his enemies, so that's a cool thing he can do. And then in the Incredible Hulk issue 363, Greg uses his powers to take down the Hulk. It's not easy, but it sure makes it easier when the Hulk is literally stoned during the fight. Number 6, Nightmare. Making his first debut back in Strange Tales issue 110, Nightmare's origin remains a mystery, and it's only known to few. He's both a conceptual entity, part of all of existence, just like eternity, and he's also a deity. So the guy's just trouble. He's just trouble. He was born in the Ever and I dimension, and he was seen as a cousin to the Dweller in Darkness. He knew Dweller's origins. He wanted no part in all that stuff. Nightmare has crossed paths with the Hulk many times. At one point, he caused the Hulk to have these hallucinations, and of course, he had nightmares for years, because his name's Nightmare. You get it. Even Betty Ross, Bruce's love, isn't safe from Nightmare. Nightmare once once entered her mind and did horrible things to her while she was dreaming, he's kind of like Freddy Krueger, and seeing as WandaVision didn't want to bring in Nightmare when they had a good chance to, it's probably best if the Hulk and Betty never met him as well. Number 5. Ravage. Dr. Geoffrey Crawford was a professor of physics at Desert State University and was a mentor to Bruce Banner initially. See, Crawford was developing this teleportation device where point A would scan all of your DNA and then zoom, your DNA would end up on the other end. Sounds like nothing could ever go wrong at all in that thing. So Banner went back to Crawford in hopes that he could help him think of a solution for his big green alter ego problem. And then when Bruce got there, Crawford was in a wheelchair and he was suffering from a disease, but he still opted out to help Bruce with his problem. What a nice guy. Turns out Crawford wanted Bruce's DNA in hopes of curing his debilitating disease, but while testing out his theory, he warped to point B and then the DNA had bonded with him, creating this other type of Hulk called Ravage. And because Bruce tried to stop him during this, his DNA meshed together while he was angry, so you already know what that looks like. Number 4. Red Hulk. He made his first appearance in Incredible Hulk issue 1 as General Ross, but come the first issue of volume 2, Ross goes beast mode and becomes one of the Hulk's greatest threats of all time. Red Hulk was created using gamma radiation, like the Hulk, but what makes him more of a foe is the fact that he also has cosmic rays added to that already aggressive mix. So the Red Hulk, or Rolk, which is fun to say, doesn't get stronger the angrier he gets like Bruce. No, he actually gets hotter. Yeah, he gets so hot and then all of a sudden he turns into Ryan Gosling. No, like heat. He physically burns up, that's what I mean. So during one of the first run-ins with the Red Hulk, when the two Goliaths were scrapping it out, the sand around them melted because of this heat and turned into glass, which is pretty cool. More stuff to break too, which you gotta love if you're the Hulk. Number 3. Juggernaut. Kane Marco made his first comic book appearance in X-Men issue 12. Kane and Charles Xavier were serving together in the same unit, but when Kane was under fire, he ran off to take cover in a nearby cave. Now this cave was actually home to the lost temple of Sidorak, so Kane grabbed this glowing ruby from the lap of an idol, which is a great idea if you've seen every movie. He read the inscription and possessed the power of the crimson bands of Sidorak, becoming a human Juggernaut. Then an explosion went off, poof, and the Juggernaut was trapped under the rubble and Xavier got out of dodge. Now after he dug himself out, he destroyed an entire village with the previous man who held the Juggernaut title, Gentaico, in the mix as well. While it might be cool to see Juggernaut and the Hulk fight in live action, we also have to get the X-Men there first, and it doesn't seem like Marvel is in a rush to bring them in, as we saw from WandaVision. Hashtag Ralph Boner. In World War Hulk in X-Men issue 2, we see these two magnificent beasts go at it, and they're both pretty close in strength, but what makes Kane hard to fight is the fact that he can last some time without needed rest. His stamina is nuts. He can also summon his armor at any time, so that certainly comes in handy. Number 2. Wendigo. This next one comes from Canada, so we gotta keep an eye out for this one, Chris. We gotta keep our peepers open. Paul Cartier made his comic book debut in the Incredible Hulk issue 162. Yes, that rhymed. The Windigo is a result of an ancient curse from the elder gods of Canadian folklore, and it transforms anybody who eats human flesh into this massive fur-covered beast, so don't eat flesh. It's been referred to as an indestructible force of nature being made from the gods and all. Now this all began when two Canadian lads were in the wilderness hunting, and then when wolves attacked and wounded one of the men, he ended up passing away from the attack, and his buddy was really hungry. He was starving, so he kind of sort of had to eat his friend's skin to survive. Yuck, but also you have to, man, it's part of it. Thus turning him into this Wendigo. Now it took Wolverine's help for the Hulk to take the Wendigo down, and just the origin story alone for this guy, I don't think we'll be seeing humans eating other humans in the MCU anytime soon, or if we do, hopefully it's Marvel Zombies. Either way, I'm not ready for that yet. Number 1, the Maestro. I know that name sounds cool, but this guy is an absolute nightmare to be around. He is not a conductor of classical music, no. In the series Incredible Hulk Future Imperfect, we see this version of the Hulk way more weird than Smart Hulk dabbing. Yeah, even weirder than that. He made his first appearance in a vision in the Incredible Hulk Volume 2 issue 401, and Maestro was the main antagonist in the Incredible Hulk Future Imperfect storyline. Now this story of course takes place about 100 or so years in the future after a nuclear war put the planet super close to extinction. Now this alternate future version of the Hulk, Maestro, had been absorbing all of the nuclear radiation this entire time, and he ended up becoming the strongest thing on the planet. Massive increases in strength and anger plus the brains of Banner made him arguably unstoppable. He's big, smart, strong, and a total nightmare to be around. I mean, maybe we could get some sort of future imperfect storyline, but I feel like it's way too dark for Disney. But hey, never say never. Kicking off the list at number 10, Moonstone. She made her first debut in Captain America issue 192. Carla Sofen was a psychiatrist, but instead of helping her patients, she sent them into paranoia instead. So the worst doctor ever, that's great. This life choice led her down the path to become a villain, obviously, starting with an assistant position to the Dr. Faustus. So eventually she made her way to Lloyd Block, the original Moonstone. Then she poisoned him with hallucinogens, and then she made him hand over the Moonstone, which was a Kree device that grants the users like tons of powers. So we can see this exchange go down in the Incredible Hulk issue 299. She gives the Hulk a run for his money. She then joined the Masters of Evil and went up against the Avengers numerous times. She was one of the villains that stepped up once the Avengers went missing. She was on the Thunderbolts team, referring to herself as Meteorite, which sounds almost more scary, more villainous than anything. And before we go on with this list of Hulk villains, guys, if you want to go ahead and smash that like button, Hulk smash that like button, if I may, because it helps out our channel tons here. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to this list already. Number 9, UFOs. Yes, one of the biggest Hulk villains is a group of UFOs flying in the sky, God forbid. No, the UFOs made their first comic book debut in Incredible Hulk issue 254. They were inspired by the Fantastic Four's origin story, okay? So they were power hungry and they went to great lengths to get it. Now their plan was to recreate that same accident that gave the Fantastic Four their powers. I mean, they even went so far as to get the same engineers that built the original shuttle. So they were pretty committed. Their attempt was going well until, of course, Dr. Banner intervened. He thought the group had been exposed by accident, and when he found their ground control facility, he did the hero thing and brought the shuttle safely back down in order to save their lives. But they didn't want to be saved. They got powers, however, all 4 of them got powers, and when they saw Banner was the one to interrupt them from perhaps even getting more powers, they lashed out at him. And they went on to call themselves the UFOs. Number 8, Tyrannus. He made his first comic book debut in Incredible Hulk issue 5. Romulus Augustulus was the last emperor of the Roman Empire. He was born a little bit before us, you know, back in the year 463 AD, so he's kind of old, a little bit. At just the age 12, he took the throne. Age 12! That's some Game of Thrones stuff right there. I bet he was a better leader than Joffrey still. So he had the throne, but nobody took him seriously because, well, yeah, he was 12. He's trying to knight people and like his hands are small. He's like, what? Who are you? What are you doing? Get out of here. You're nothing. So he ruled for about 12 months, and then his father was defeated by the German Goth Odoacer, which kicked off the Dark Ages in Europe. He was then banished from the kingdom where little 12-year-old Romulus swore to return. And he did. He returned in the 6th century as Tyrannus, when he became a servant of Pluto, who empowered him and sent him to destroy Merlin. Like the magician Merlin. Merlin whooped his ass and then banished Romulus, or Tyrannus, beneath the earth to a realm called Subterranea. Now while under there, he found a bunch of deviant technology, and then he attacked Earth, finding the Fountain of Youth along the way, which made him young forever, made him young for centuries, and then eventually he ended up kidnapping Betty Ross and holding her as hostage in order to try and conquer the United States, which got the big green guy on his radar. Number 7, Bi-Beast. This guy is wild. Okay, so the Bi-Beast started off as an android with 2 heads. So he had a head here and then a head here. Now the top head has knowledge of warfare, and the bottom head has knowledge of culture. It was created by the bird people, the avian race that were subspecies of the Inhumans. Now he's only around for one comic, that comic being the Incredible Hulk issue 169. Nice. So once the bird people had all passed away, this android was left in the floating city of Aerie. And then later down the road, Bi-Beast saw the Harpy with Banner and got some flashbacks to its bird masters, so it captured them both and demanded that Banner uses his brain to fix the decaying machines in the city. So Banner didn't do that. Instead, he cured the Harpy back into Betty Ross mode, which angered Bi-Beast even more. So now there's a fight with the Hulk and this 2-headed monster. It got pretty distracted when AIM was striking down on the city in a force led by MODOK, and he got stressed out and this thing straight up blew itself up. He's like, damn, the city's being attacked, Bruce Banner's got hands, ugh, see ya. But wait, there's more. See, the bird people actually created a second Bi-Beast, which did survive and kept going after the Hulk and other heroes. We love backups. Can't go wrong with backups. Number 6, Piecemeal. He first entered the world of comics with Incredible Hulk issue 407. Piecemeal was created by scientists working for the Red Skull in the Amazon jungle. He's a cyborg villain with claws that can cut through anything, your hopes and dreams, whatever, you name it, it'll cut right through. Now they wanted to use him as this being, this artificial being with all the abilities of the New World Order members included. Now they started to work on Project Piecemeal, but one of these scientists, Madman, rather fitting name, went a little bit too far, and without anybody knowing, he planted a device in Piecemeal so the android would follow his commands only. Kind of like Ultron almost, but with less James Spader and more gunslinger, you know? Piecemeal tried to escape this lab numerous times. One time the Juggernaut fought back and sent him back to the lab, and he's not having an easy go. Even when he tries to get out, it's not easy. So Piecemeal eventually grabbed onto the bottom of a plane and snuck out of Brazil and headed to Europe, where he visited the one place he would go to, you know, Loch Ness, and then he frightened tourists. That's when the Hulk came around and the two fought it out. So when Piecemeal changed his appearance to match the Hulk's, it distracted Banner long enough for the scientist to knock Banner out. That madman scientist knocked him right out. He didn't use a blow dart. I don't know why I did that, but I feel like we should use more blow darts. Number 5, Agamemnon. Valley Halfling. Made his debut in Incredible Hulk 379, and he's the son of a mortal woman and Loki. Like, Loki. Yeah, Loki brought him to Asgard and took care of him. Now, Valley once ended up in Hell, one time. Now, the underworld of Asgard is usually a pretty rough place, but since Hela was his half-sister, she released him. See, it's all about who you know, guys. It's all about who you know. Valley upset many Asgardians by stealing their secrets, so Odin did what he does best, and he sent him off. Bye, peace, off to another realm, get out of here, go, scoot. He banished him to Earth, cursed with eternal adolescence. So Valley traded the pick of his future offspring to the Trojan race in exchange for knowledge of immortality, which is just a great deal all around. You think of both sides, you're like, I'll never have either of these, this is great. Now, he's never confirmed or denied that he was the Agamemnon who was king of Argos and commander-in-chief of the Greek army against Troy in ancient times, but at this point, I'm afraid to ask. Nobody wants to know. They're like, you know what? Keep your secrets, Mr. Secret Man. He's quite powerful at being a master tactician and strategist, and he's also quite experienced in the use of magique. So the one downside is that he's forever young, so he'll never get into bars. No, he's constantly being distracted by hormonal changes and even acne, so we're only human. Kind of. Number 4, Armageddon. Making his first debut in Incredible Hulk issue 413, he was also young when his life got flipped turned upside down. Fresh Prince. His father lost his life in a space battle, so he was up to bat when it came to claiming the throne of the Trojan Empire. Now, he did wonders in charge. He led his troops to many victories, worlds, galaxies, solar systems. He was claiming them all. Like, his wife passed away, and this guy was so into ruling that he didn't even notice. She had 2 sons, though, before she passed away, twin boys. But even they had to learn from Lord Vito, Armageddon's friend and advisor, because that's how far away he was. Not a great father. So one of the sons ended up not surviving a mission to Earth, and the other son fell in love with that other son's killer. That son, appropriately named Trauma, kidnapped Atlanta and brought her back to his homeworld, where his father Armageddon was quite impressed. Now the Hulk, Silver Surfer, and the Starjammers came around to demand her release, but he stood by his son's decision and fought the heroes off. Now Armageddon has the Trojan ability to channel cosmic energies through his body and can even withstand a blow from the World Breaker Hulk. So he's not one to mess around with. Number 3, Zax. Okay, this one's wild, although I have a feeling we're probably never going to see him in live action. One can only dream. So Zax, I'm gonna say Zax every time. No, I'm just kidding. So Zax made his first appearance in the Incredible Hulk issue 166. Right there on the cover, it says It, the thing from Dynamo. It was originally the product of an accident that happened at Edison Nuclear Power Plant when a group of criminals tried to power off New York City. So the gunfire that happened caused this massive chain reaction in the atomic reactor and resulted in this psionically charged electromagnetic field of humanoid form to be birthed. Okay, so basically he's a supervillain that can take out anybody in its way. Just a big electric mess. All Zax has to do is absorb their intelligence, and in turn, it gets smarter, bigger, and badder. Being a creature of pure electricity, it can fly, manipulate electrical fields, and absorb people, all except the Hulk, you guessed it. Which makes for a suitable battle. Big green punchy guy versus Zax, the electrical cloud of emotions. 9 tickets in IMAX, please, thanks. Debit? Number 2, Sandman. While Sandman is more commonly known as a Spider-Man villain, sure, he does get on the naughty list for more than one superhero. One of them, of course, being the Incredible Hulk. So when the Sandman found out about the Air Force testing this new space warp ship, he wanted it for himself. I mean, who wouldn't want that lying around in their driveway? Are you kidding? Absolutely. So he wanted it so he could free his friend Blaster from the negative zone. So when he went to the military base, he met the Hulk, convinced the Hulk to help him out, and then while the Hulk was attacking the base and fighting off General Ross and all his forces, Sandman tried to take the ship for himself, that greedy little sandy fella. But Betty Ross was threatened, so the Hulk clapped his hands so hard that Sandman got blasted all across the area. Just nothing but sand, like a bathing suit after it was shaked out after a day at the beach. The Sandman was eventually knocked into a pressurized vat where he later emerged made out of glass. We love science. So if we need to beat the Sandman, we just gotta clap really hard at the same time. That's it. Guys, we all watch Friends. We watch the intro at the same time and we do those 4 claps. Boom, no more Sandman. He's gone. Otherwise, for sure, we need the Hulk. Call him immediately. And finally, number 1, Thanos. I have to finish with this one because although Thanos was in the MCU for sure, I still believe he's a villain that the Hulk should not go against. He's too powerful. Even before Thanos obtains all the Infinity Stones, he's able to lay out the Hulk in the opening scene of Infinity War. He doesn't even use the one stone that he does have, the Power Stone. No, all he needs is his big Titan fists and a couple neck jabs, and the Hulk will literally retire. Even when Bruce Banner needs him to come back later on in the film, the Hulk's like, no, absolutely not. That guy? Yeah, get lost. I'm all set. You have the Hulkbuster, you don't need me, bye. In Infinity issue 6, we see Thanos knock the Hulk back with just one punch. And if raw strength wasn't enough to do the job, Thanos has made the Hulk attack his fellow Avengers in Avengers Assemble Volume 2, issue 4. There's also the series Thanos vs. the Hulk that was released back in 2015, and it's a bloody good time. I remember the first time seeing Infinity War when the Hulk got rocked. I was genuinely afraid of Thanos. I'm like, oh, he does more than sit in a throne after all. I'm gonna go change my pants now. Cheers. Kicking off the list at number 10, Matthew Malloy. While we're eagerly awaiting the arrival of mutants into the MCU, there's quite a few mutants that I wouldn't want hanging out near Peter, Ned, or MJ, like Matthew Malloy, for example. See, Matthew was a regular Joe living in Charleston, South Carolina, but all of a sudden Earth gets hit with a Skrull invasion. Gotta love Mondays in the Marvel Universe. Sick. Things escalate when his wife Jules is vaporized by a blast from said Skrull ship, and his home was also just toast. Just a complete tragedy from the start. Now, one depressing, dark, lonely year later, he sees his late wife's sister, and they finally catch up. And it's hard for Matthew, of course, to talk about this stuff. This is still just a year ago, so it's all very fresh. So he's feeling it, and that's when his mutant powers decided to manifest. He erupted with energy, sadly also ending the life of Jules' sister. Not looking good so far. And then while he's standing there in shock, Maria Hill's hologram shows up out of a drone, and she's like, are you okay? Are you a mutant? What are your powers? What's going on? Do you have Geico? He's a little stressed out on what's happening, so he freaks out a little more. So she sends in a strike team, and this just caused him to release even more energy and take even more lives. S.H.I.E.L.D. ended up sending in an airstrike, and that ended the lives of Cyclops, Magic, and Matthew, but those powers were better than we thought, because Matthew came back to life. Immortality for the win. Next, he teleported to the Jean Grey school, where he then took the life of Emma Frost. Now, Tempest at this point decided the only way to take care of this beyond Omega level threat was to go back in time and make sure his parents never meet. Then we can avoid having this supervillain from exploding over and over again. There's a link there, page 10. Mutants are cool and all, but this is evidence of how a regular guy can be riddled with tragedy in the Marvel Universe. Imagine if Zemo got these powers, Civil War would be over in like 22 minutes. Number 9, Molecule Man. Owen Reese started his days out as a small, puny, ridiculously looking laboratory technician whose life changed forever one day at work. Also, that's how the Watcher described him. I'm not being mean. He's breaking down his origins to the Fantastic Four, and he's low-key roasting the guy the entire time. It's pretty great. He was working for Acme Atomic Corp, but one day he got distracted and made a mistake while making adjustments to that atomic machine. He was distracted because he was monologuing about how much his life sucks. He was like, oh, I'm just a nobody wearing green pants at work, boo-hoo, no one knows my name. And then in the middle of his pity party, he gets blasted with energy, but somehow he survives. His boss of 12 years calls him in the office, and he's like, hey, I heard about your accident, Mr. whatever your name is. We can't have that happen here. You're fired, which, first of all, as far as lawsuits go, could you imagine? But Owen doesn't pack up and leave. No, instead, he pulls out a wand that can control his powers, and he turns Boss Man into a snow cone. He can now control every molecule in the universe, and like Reed Richards says, if a man can control molecules, he can control anything. Guy's really brilliant with that groundbreaking assessment. Thanks, Reed. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It's a lot of dark, tragic stuff going on here, so let's brighten the mood a little bit by doing a little hitting that button. Thanks so much, you guys are the best. Back to this list. Number 8, Mad Jim Jaspers. Old Jimmy J, okay, he made his first appearance in Daredevil's number 7 back in 1983. He was created by Alan Davis and Alan Moore, and when he first hit the pages, he was a British politician serving as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He was serving as a member of Parliament for Haslab West, and he wasn't a fan of superheroes either. He wanted to keep Britain safe, and superheroes crashing through buildings and punching each other in the back, no thanks. Sounds like the opposite of safety. They're old school, I get it. But he also wasn't alone. Many others agreed with him, and in turn, he won a general election. Only 2 issues after he's introduced, we find out he's a mutant with reality warping powers, who of course is also insane. He was just taking out other heroes so that he could rule secretly. Classic little twisty twist. He created and used this machine called the Fury, which hunted down superhumans. Meanwhile, he would be off committing crimes with his Alice in Wonderland themed gang. I know Disney loves crossovers, but I think this would be a little too weird. Number 7, Mephisto. In a list of villains too powerful for the MCU, clearly Mephisto is on that list. We thought he was going to be the one pulling the strings in WandaVision, but as the catchy theme song revealed, it was Agatha Harkness all along. Mephisto made his first full appearance in Silver Surfer issue 3, and he's been making deals with everybody since. Like when Spider-Man revealed his identity in the Civil War storyline, that led to a bullet striking Aunt May, so he offers Peter a deal while Aunt May is dying in the hospital. The world will forget Peter Parker is truly Spider-Man, but in turn Mephisto gets his marriage. It's kind of like Shrek 4, but way more fun. And this movie's probably gonna make way more money than Shrek 4. I mean, maybe, hopefully, I hope. You don't even need to be a superhero to have an eventful night with Mephisto either. Like in Journey into Mystery issue 627, he would show up to a random pub and he tells the bartender a story, and if you listen to his tale, he'll give you a nice fat tip. But if you slip up, things can get pretty ugly. Next time you get that really annoying regular at your bar, just think, it could literally be the devil and be a lot worse. Consider yourself lucky. Number 6, Vulcan. The younger brother of both Cyclops and Havoc, Gabriel Summers made his first appearance in X-Men Deadly Genesis. Before Catherine Summers even had a chance to give birth to the 3rd child, he was transferred into an incubation accelerator, so he grew up real quick. After this, he was sent to Earth to work for Eric the Red, but luckily he didn't stick around to let that happen too long. He changed his name quickly from Gabriel to Kid Vulcan, which sounds way cooler already, but was also inspired by Roman mythology. I guess the other names already belong to DC characters. But Xavier eventually met him, and because of his mental powers, he knew that this boy was a relative to the Summers family. Vulcan had forgotten about his history at this point as well, but he suited up with Petra, Darwin, and Sway, and together they rescued the original X-Men. It wasn't easy though. Cyclops thought Vulcan had died when the island decided to fight back. Vulcan is an Omega level mutant, and he's also insane. What a jazzy combo. Vulcan can manipulate, absorb, and control energy. This includes Cyclops' optic blasts or even Adam Warlock's energy. And of course, interstellar flight makes those cosmic commutes nice and smooth. Number 5, Onslaught. Making his first debut in X-Men issue 15, Onslaught was a sentient psionic entity created from the minds of Charles Xavier and Magneto. So when the X-Men were fighting the Acolytes, Wolverine hit Magneto, and then in turn Magneto ripped the adamantium from his bones, which I've mentioned on other lists before because that's one of the more painful encounters I've ever seen in comic books. His healing factor then had to work overtime, and Xavier at this point decided it would be the right move to just shut Magneto's mind down, so then he made him catatonic. But during this exact moment, all of Magneto's lust for hate and violence leaked into Charles' subconscious, creating this new personality, Onslaught. Onslaught is quite lucky, because now he gets to tap into the psychic resources of the astral plane, where he can manipulate matter and energy. I mean, let's get X-Men into the MCU first, and then we'll start talking about evil mashups and swaps. Number 4, Mojo. Making his first debut in Longshot issue 3, Mojo is known for using Earth as forms of TV entertainment for the universe. Just like the team over here at Top 10 Nerd, the more views he gets for this interdimensional TV show, the more powerful he gets as well. So if you didn't hit that like button, now you really have to. So in the 1992 issue titled Mojo's Media Madness, he had this wild storyline where Mojo gets Rogue, Cyclops, Beast, and Wolverine, and they all think that they're characters from The Wizard of Oz. It sounds fun, but for the MCU this would be way too stupid, dare I say. The comic is crazy enough. I mean, we see his madness really unfold in X-Men issue 10. Mojo is a unique villain. He's part of a race called the Spineless Beings, and they're from a planet named after him called Mojo World inside of a pocket dimension called Mojoverse. It's just all about him, eh? Wow. So this race of spineless beings were also slowly going crazy over time because TV signals from other space-time continuums like ours were scattered into their timelines. He's a powerful sorcerer, and we're not exactly sure just how far his magic can go. We'll stick to watching these guys on our TV rather than having them sucked into a interdimensional Netflix, you know? That sounds better. Number 3, Apocalypse. Making his first steps in Marvel graphic novel issue 17 and then making his first full appearance in X Factor issue 5, Apocalypse was born nearly 5,000 years ago at the edge of the Valley of the Kings in ancient Egypt. He was abandoned by his tribe because of the fact that he looked different. He had the Blue Man Group avatar vibe going on, so they left the child. How mean. Later on, he was raised by the nomads with the idea that only the strong survive. So already such a tragic childhood. Now in the desert, along came Baal of the Crimson Sands, leader of the Sandstormers, and he saw this kid crying, and he also saw potential, because clearly he was different. So he named him An-Sabanur, which translates to morning light. He grew up becoming the most feared in the land, and eventually Baal led him to Rama-Tut's time ship in an underground tomb. Now Baal didn't survive this cave expedition, but Nur was now determined to be anything but an abused worker. Now he wanted revenge on Rama-Tut, the pharaoh ruler. And after being thrown into a pit of snakes, Nur grew in size and strength, easily defeating all the guards before finally declaring himself Apocalypse. We had this guy already in the Foxverse, but it didn't feel too great. I think we should let that wound heal a bit before bringing him into the MCU with the X-Men. Maybe like 8 years, then we'll talk. Number 2, MODOK. Making its first appearance in Tales of Suspense issue 93, MODOK was created by Dr. George Tarleton. He had worked with the team recently to create the Cosmic Cube, but the scientist supreme, Lyle Getz, figured the next logical step was figuring out a way to understand the powers inside said cube. We see this happen a little bit in the MCU. So enter Project MODOK, yes, spelled with a C at the end instead of a K. That's important, you gotta remember that. MODOK stood for Mental Organism Designed Only for Computing. It sounds like a high-tech series, sounds perfect. What a great way to analyze and probe this cosmic cube. So they grabbed that scientist George that I mentioned and altered him into this big-headed supercomputer. That's when things start to go south, obviously. With a brain too big for his body, they had to give him a hover chair, which is referred to as the Doomsday Chair. Already it's downhill. This scientist did not know that with great power comes great responsibility, so it wasn't long before MODOK overtook his masters, changed that last letter from a C to a K, making his new, more suitable name for the list, MODOK, Mental Organism Designed Only for Killing. He's the big bad in the new Avengers game that's not too good, but it's still worth a play, and yes, he's as crazy as it sounds. And finally, number 1, Galactus. Wielder of the power cosmic, this one has to eat planets in order to survive. Yummy. We saw him in Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Well, I mean, we saw a cloud that sort of looked like him, I guess. Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds. Let's talk about him. The Great Destroyer made his first appearance in Fantastic Four issue 48. He's the sole survivor of the 6th incarnation of the multiverse. But originally he was a humanoid named Galan, born on a previous version of Earth called Planet Ta. It was a paradise whose civilization was much more advanced than any other in the universe at the time, which sounds quite lovely. But when the cosmos were soon ending the embodiment of the 6th infinity, the sentience of the multiverse approached Galan and merged with him. So now Galactus resides in the 7th iteration of his universe, which is home to our Earth 616. He's extremely powerful. He once ate all the Infinity Stones, so maybe we'll just keep them hidden in case he's off his desk for now. Kicking off the list at number 10, Mr. Sinister. Dr. Nathaniel Essex made his first debut in Uncanny X-Men 221. Now he's not that easy to forget once you take a glimpse at him, because he's kind of terrifying in every way. He's also obsessed with experimenting on mutants, and yes, that includes himself. He was obsessed with Darwin's theory of evolution, but he felt like they were shackled by too many moral constraints. Doesn't that sound lovely? It's off the bat. He couldn't get funding from the Hellfire Club, so he got together a group that he named the Marauders, and then he got them to kidnap people off the streets of London so he can then experiment on them. So dark already, the guy is twisted. He even tried to experiment on his son, who was no longer alive. This guy may be a little bit too twisted for the MCU, but he does bring back dead characters, so maybe he's a blessing in disguise. Number 9, Blastar. Making his first appearance in Fantastic Four issue 62, Blastar once was the ruler of Balur, a planet in the negative zone. The inhabitants of said planet were not a fan of this horrible ruling, so they voted him off the island. They revolted and sent him adrift into the cosmos. Now during that field trip in space, he bumped into Mr. Fantastic, who at that point was already on his way back to Earth with the inhuman Triton. So Blastar followed them through the portal, teamed up with Sandman, and fought the Fantastic Four. He ended up losing this battle, fell and was sent back to his own dimension, which sounds like a win, but this was only the beginning. He then became king once again, but this time he expanded his territory. It also helped that this time around he stole Annihilus' cosmic control rod. This guy is pretty hardcore, and at one point in the comics, he tried to collect all the Infinity Stones before Thanos. Somebody tell Blastar he's a little bit too late for the MCU. And before we continue on with this list, you know the drill. If you're loving the content, or if you want a part 3, or if you're just liking the curls so far, give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out quite a bit, and then in turn we can give you back as much as we can. You're the best, thank you so much. Right back to this list. Number 8, Shadow King. Making his first appearance in X-Men 117, the Shadow King is a multiversal manifestation of the dark side of the human consciousness spawned by the first nightmare. Doesn't that sound nice already? Sick. Amal Farouk was the leader of the underground syndicate located in the Thieves' Quarter in Cairo, Egypt. He's a powerful mutant who also happens to be a vessel for said Shadow King. Farouk was able to control everybody around him. It's pretty terrifying. He feeds on the shadows of your soul. So yeah, with Marvel veering off into the cosmic side of things, maybe we could see a Shadow King whenever the X-Men come into the picture. Now in the comics, before World War II, Amal Farouk worked with Baron von Strucker to try and destabilize Britain's political structure. So maybe he's been there the whole time. I kind of hope he's not though, because he's terrifying. Number 7, the Fallen One. First appearing in Thanos issue 11, the Fallen One was once a herald of Galactus, who of course we mentioned in part 1. Now the difference between later heralds of Galactus, this Fallen One was empowered by dark energy instead of cosmic radiation, which was the norm. So in turn he was quite cruel. He was evil enough that Galactus himself had to imprison him. The Fallen One was also a sneaky one. He would often escape and then re-attack Galactus all over again. It was a vicious circle until Star-Lord came in and imprisoned the Fallen One into the Klin, that prison we see in the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now when the Klin was later destroyed during a conflict with Thanos and the Maker, the Fallen One again broke free, went back to Galactus, but this time Galactus teleported him back to Thanos. He's like, no, you go fight him, Mr. Crazy Guy, get out of here. Thanos ended up defeating him, but only because he tricked the Fallen One into igniting a gas giant. At this point, Thanos made him become a herald for himself, right? Might as well. The Fallen One can control black matter, which is a pretty big deal. He can use that matter to enhance his own speed, strength, durability, you name it. You wouldn't see him coming either, because he can travel at the same speed of light. Now, we just got Thanos out of the MCU, so let's never bring back his herald either. No thanks. Number 6, Spiral. Rita Wayward made her debut in Longshot issue 1. She's actually a loyal servant to the spineless Mojo that we mentioned in part 1 of this list. But it didn't always start that way, of course not. See, Ricochet Rita was once a professional stunt performer. She became friends with a guy named Longshot who was already from that Mojoverse. She was actually attacked by this insane version of herself called Spiral from the future. They fought, she won, and she thought that was the end of that problem. Now you gotta remember that, because it's for sure not the end. Rita actually decided to follow her heart and go back to that Mojoverse with her new boy toy, Longshot. And then when they get there, they're both captured by Mojo. Longshot's mind was wiped, now forgetting Rita, which is so sad already. But for Rita, it just gets worse. Mojo got his scientists to modify her mentally and physically, so now she has 6 arms, and her hair is also gray, and now, oh, she can also see other dimensions. She was like a twisted little version of Mojo, and she got trained in the dark arts of magic and body modification. And as you may have guessed, that future version of her was just that. Mojo sent her new and improved self to go back in time and attack her past self. It's just a nice loop of trouble. Number 5, Kid Omega. Quentin Quire made his first appearance in X-Men issue 134. He's been described as one of the most powerful telepaths right next to Jean Grey, and believe it or not, he was once also the host of the Phoenix Force. In his early super days, Quentin was one of Xavier's prize pupils, until he put together the Omega Gang. He wasn't always a bad kid though. It's just on his birthday, when he was still young, he received a call from his parents to say that he was adopted. And honestly, if I got that gift on my birthday, I'd probably turn evil too. I don't blame the kid. This Omega Gang likes to handle humans the way that they feel like, with violence and mutant monologues. He's been described as an Omega level telepath and telekinetic, so if mutants are too much for the MCU right now, Kid Omega surely won't be around for quite a while. Number 4, Overmind. First appearing in Fantastic Four issue 113, Overmind, aka Grom, was an Eternal born on the planet Young. He was a fierce gladiator whose job it was to prevent overpopulation. He conquered hundreds of worlds, he won thousands of fights, and he took out entire species. He's the champion of champions. Literally, the Eternals held the games to test everybody to see who the most powerful was, and Grom was the winner. He's the ultimate physical specimen of the Eternals, and part of me wants to meet him in the next Eternals movie, and part of me doesn't want to know what conquering planets and thousands of souls looks like either. Let's keep this guy in the books, definitely. Number 3, Juggernaut. Kane Marco made his first comic book appearance in X-Men issue 12. When Kane and Charles Xavier were serving together in the same unit, they were all under fire, so they had to run and take cover in a nearby cave. Now the cave was actually home to the lost temple of Sidorak. So just who is this Sidorak guy? And also, nice temple by the way. Sidorak is a powerful entity that is both a god and a demon. Best of both worlds, lovely. He was worshipped on Earth way back in the day, but was eventually banished to the Crimson Cosmos. Sidorak's gem contained all of its power, so when Kane stumbled across it and then decided to read the inscription, whoever touches this gem shall possess the power of the Crimson Bands of Sidorak. Henceforth, you who read these words shall become forevermore a human juggernaut. And then Kane turned into just that. Now we have Ryan Reynolds coming over from the Foxverse into the MCU, and I doubt they would bring over such a high caliber character like Juggernaut as well. He might be a little bit too soon for that. He would literally rip the Avengers apart also. We see Doctor Strange summon the Crimson Bands of Sidorak in Infinity War while the team is fighting Thanos on Titan, so never say never. Number 2, Proteus. Kevin McTaggart was the son of Moira McTaggart and her husband Joseph. Now the marriage was the opposite of healthy. Joseph was abusive mentally and physically and just an all-around horrible human being. So Moira got out of there. She didn't even tell Joseph that she was pregnant. The less he knows the better, honestly. Just move on, get out of Dodge. So young Kevin and Moira soon lived together at her mutant research center off the coast of Scotland. Now Kevin, as he got older, manifested mutant abilities, so now he has this uncontrollable need for power. He craved it, literally. So Moira had to hide him. She had to keep him locked up in a cell for years and only referred to him as Mutant X, which is kind of a dark nickname already off the bat. I mean, sure, could have just still called him Kevin, but great. She wanted to keep him safe and also not have strangers get the soul sucked out of them on their way to work. So that's a bonus, keep him tucked below. But one day while Magneto was fighting the X-Men, Kevin's cell was damaged and he got out. Since the isosteric energy in his cell was no longer holding him back, Kevin was able to take down Polaris, Multiple Man, and he was even able to evade the Phoenix. But after doing so, his body began to burn out, just like Moira tried to prevent all this time. So now the only solution he has was to possess human hosts, one after another. He renamed himself Proteus, with his imagination the only thing that limits his powers. He's made of psionic energy, and he too can warp reality. Every time he possesses a new host, he gets stronger and stronger and stronger, until eventually the host burns out, and then he warps to possess another poor soul. And finally, number 1, Amora the Enchantress. She made her first debut back in Journey into Mystery issue 103, and her relationship with Thor is... honestly, I'd kind of love to see this in live action, but I feel like we're quite far from this type of power in the MCU. So half the time she wants to take out Thor, and the other half she's trying to take him out to dinner. It's really a love-hate relationship. Now, Amora has a pretty sweet life before all this. She's got multiple mansions throughout all the 9 realms, and can make gold and diamonds with her tears. So even on a bad day, she's still getting rich. She's really good at seducing people as well. I mean, it's literally her superpower. For example, Scourge, she would seduce him into helping her with evil plans, and he was like, oh yeah, you bet, anything for you, you're so hot, let's do it. And then afterwards, Amora wouldn't follow through with her side of the deal. She would just continue to play hard to get. She messes with your mind and your heart. That's a double whammy. One kiss is all it takes for her to completely own you and your soul. In the comics, she was sent by Odin to take out Jane Foster because the whole, loving on different worlds thing is long distance, I guess. That's a no-go for the God Squad. But when she tried to attack Jane, Thor intervened and she was banished to Earth by Odin, where she then joined the Masters of Evil. Now, she doesn't have too much experience with hand-to-hand combat because, well, she doesn't really need it. She just gets other lovers to fight her fights for her. The Bachelorette in space. Nice. Tune in. Love it.